Hello everyone, welcome back to the next session of SAP Security. In this section, we will be looking at elements of SAP authorization concept. Okay, this is the elements of SAP authorization concept. First one is object class. If you see, this object class is a logical group of authorization elements. That means we have authorization objects. So this is a group of this authorization object. It's just a logical group. It does not have any impact in your authorization setup or role creation. It just used to group the authorization objects by a logical group. The next one is authorization objects. This authorization objects are the actual objects which will be checked during your execution of particular program or transaction. So in a matter of fact, your transaction code also will be categorized as an authorization object. So the transaction code will be under authorization object S underscore T code. Then you will have a transaction code under this object. So everything in the authorization or in the roles are categorized or checked or defined by authorization object. The next element is authorization. This is the combination of fields and values together for this authorization object. So each authorization object will have a combination, will have a field as well as value. For example, this authorization object will have BUKRS, which is a company code, as a field, and the field will have some values. So this is called authorization. Then we will come to profile. So all together these authorizations will create a profile. This profile will have a technical name, and this profile is coming from a role which is linked to a role, and this role is assigned to a user. In turn, while assigning this role to the user, this will assign the profile. Okay, so authorization class, authorization object, authorization, profile, roles and users. You can assign multiple roles to users, then each role will have its own corresponding profile. And remember, one role can have multiple profile. It does not mean one role will have only one profile. It can have multiple profile. This is managed by SAP by SAP itself, that we cannot change this. Yeah, this is a very important information, that one role can have multiple profile. So based on number of objects inside this role, it will create additional profile if it is necessary. So the key point here is one role can have multiple profiles. So this profile will have authorization, which will have fields and values, which is actually coming from authorization object. Then these authorization objects are grouped together, which is called authorization class. Let's see in the system, then we will understand this better. Let's log into our system. So our system, let's go to one user, SU01 mark. This is our user. If you go to the tab roles, then you have a role assigned. If you double click here, it will take you to the roles. So you have a user which has a role. So we will go to this role, go to authorizations, and here it has a profile. This is the profile name for this user. This is generated by this role. This is an auto generated name. You can also have your own names. You can customize these profile names. Then I go to display authorization. This is the groups. This is AAAB is a group for cross application authorization objects. So if you open this group, then you have an authorization object called S underscore T code. Inside you have a technical name. Inside you have a field called TCD. In that field you have all this transaction code assigned. So if you go to the next group, ME underscore E, it's a group, authorization group. If you open this, then you have authorization object, for example, document type in purchase requisition. So you have an authorization object M underscore BANF underscore BSA. It's an object. So if you open this object, you have the field ACTVT, it's an activity. Then you have the field values 01, 02 and 08. This is a field value. Then you have purchase document type. The technical name is BSART, which has a field value is star. So this is very basic of SAP authorization, that you need to understand this very clear. We have this is field value. Together it's an authorization. You have a authorization ID. Then you have authorization object. So many number of authorization object grouped together is called authorization class. So all these objects, everything is assigned to this role. This role generates this profile. This role and profile is assigned to this user. So you have the role. When you assign this role, it will automatically assign the profile which was created by this specific role. That means which is generated from that role. So user, we will assign role, which will have in turn assign the profile. If you go to this profile, you can also directly go to this profile and check what is inside this profile. So now we are viewing this profile. Inside this profile, this is the objects. And remember one thing, the roles are not directly assigned to the SAP system in technical terms. In the memory it does not assign. Roles are you generate the profile, and the profile is assigned to the user. So this is very key point, that whenever you do any change in the role, that you need to generate the profile to get that change effect to the user. The reason is that only the profile is assigned to the user. The roles are assigned in SU01, but in technical terms it is not assigned to the user in the system. Okay, so it is very important that you generate these roles. We will come to that steps later. Just a point to make. So we can directly go to this profile and check the values. So these are all the values in this profile. This is also quite important. There may be some cases this profile is not generated properly. Then you can go back and directly check the profile whether this authorization object is there or not. So let's go to our role. So this is a user, this is a role, this is a profile assigned. If you double click this role, you go to the role, authorization, display authorization object. Then you have object, authorization object class. You open that, then you have different authorization object. In one of, if you open the authorization object, then you have field and the field values. These are all the field values. Okay, let's go back to our presentation. Next we will see field, objects and object class, how this is interlinked to each other. Now we have a object authorization objects we seen. This has field value BUKRS for example, but this field values is used in many authorization object, and then this is linked to authorization class, which again one authorization class will have many authorization objects, and we can see this. These are all again maintained in a table. So for example, this three fields, this three authorization objects which has BUKRS as well as activity. This the first one is an authorization object for I think it's related to blocked invoice for a company, specific company, and the second one is related to edit documents for the specific company, and the third one is related to maintaining account receivable. So these authorization objects have company code. BUKRS means authorization field, BUKRS means it's a company code, and ACTVT means activity. So you can have number of activity. These are all again defined in SAP. Let's show you in the system. In the table, let's say go to SC16 table browsing. The table is TACT, CT. If you see, these are all the activities which is already available in SAP. That means 1 means create or generate, 2 is change, 3 is display, 4 is print, lock, delete, archive, display, change document, like this. You have so many activities which you can assign to each object. Meaning to say, all these activities are not used in all authorization objects. Let's not confuse this. So these are all the activities already available. These are all the activities available which is defined in SAP. Now we want to know what is the activity used in the specific authorization object. For example, M underscore RECH underscore BUK. So if we want to know that, we can go to a table called TACTZ. Then you put the authorization object. Okay, this is the object, and say this object have activity 02 and 04 assigned. So if you assign this particular authorization object in a role, you will have activity only these two. Let's check some another authorization object. F underscore BKPF underscore BUK. Okay, this authorization object has all these activities: 01, create, change, display, delete, change document, print, like this, all the authorization activity. And remember, you do not need to remember these tables. So if in case we wanted to check it, you can still check it. Even the authorization objects, it's very difficult to remember all the authorization object, what is it used for. There will be no condition, there will be very rare scenario that you will go to this table and see this. So what I am trying to show you is how it is been organized. That does not mean that we need to remember all these tables. So if some case you wanted to analyze something, then you wanted to check what are all the activities available in SAP, then you can go and check it in these tables. So this is the way this has been organized. So we have an activity in some table, and this is in some table, and which will define how many of this activity which can be used from this specific table. So each of these authorization objects are like this. It is organized in such a way that it is easy to understand, and it is grouped together. So that is the interesting part of SAP. The authorization concept in SAP is very deep and very well organized. Now let's see a scenario. We have an authorization requirement, whereas BUKRS is that BUKRS means company code. I mentioned it before. BUKRS is 1000 and 2000, that is 1000 and 2000, and the ACTVT is 010203. In this case, let's take the previous example, f underscore bkpf underscore buk. This is an authorization object for edit document. Then with that authorization object, if the BUKRS is 1000 and 2000 and the ACTVT is 01, 02 and 03, then this particular user who has this authorization object have create, change and display for these two company codes. Okay. Then let's say in another user which has an authorization object, the same authorization object but the BUKRS is 1000, sorry 1000 or 2000 and 3000, then activity is 03 means display. Then this user have authorization to display the document for 1000 and 2000 and 3000 company codes. So let's assume there is one user who want to have create, change and display authorization for 1000 and 2000 company code, and he also wanted to have display for 3000 company codes. In a scenario, we assign this authorization object b underscore bkpf underscore buk, which we have seen in our previous slide, with these two this authorization object first, and we assign the same authorization object with this value one more time. 2 times we assign. So in effect, what this user is going to get, that he or she will have create, change, display for these two company code, and will have display authorization only for this company codes. Then it can work together. So you can create, change and display for 1000 and 2000 two company code, and the third company code you can only display. You cannot create or change document for the third company code 3000. So this is in combination. So we can combine this authorization object as we like. So it's quite flexible. You can design it such a way that you can have one company code you can only display, and the second company code you can only change, like these kind of combinations. Let's continue look into a different example. Here we have defined as work centers as a separate work center. Then we have a transaction code f-22 and f-27, fb02 and fb03. And we have the authorization object. First authorization object is f underscore bkpf underscore buk with activity and BUKRS activity and company code, and the second object and the third object. Let's take the work center 2 for example. Let's assume this is our authorization profile. So if we assign this authorization object in this combination, then we will have transaction code f1-22 and f-27 and fb02 and fb03 with the effective authorization to create and change and display for company code 1000 and effective. This authorization object is for business area. Then they can create and change and display document under this company code 2000 for this business area. And the third one is uh, for the account receivable and account type. This one they will have effective 01, 02 and 03, and the account type will be D. So like this. And if you come to the work center 1, then you have a different combination. They have this authorization for company code 2000 and this authorization for company code 1000, and these are all the document types they can change. So like this we can make a combination of whatever the scenario which we required, and we can adjust these values in the authorization object. Then the entire behavior of the authorization will change. We have seen transaction codes, authorization objects, fields and field values. Now let's see how the roles are being created and how it's been assigned. We also need to see there is something called role menu. This role menu is actually as a very useful thing. This also generated using PFCG, profile generated. In the profile generator we can assign this role menu. Then the user will have user menu comes from this specific role. The role menu you can also assign web links apart from the transaction and the reports or T codes. We can also add web links and so many other, like some shared Excel file in your shared drive, things like this. Then we will maintain authorization object and generate profile. Let's check it in our backend system. Our PFCG, let's check the user. That is a better idea. SU01, our user is Mark, and this is the role which is assigned to this user. I'll say double click here, it will open this. Then I'll go to menu. So in the menu we have purchase order and all this transaction which is assigned. So when I log in as Mark, let me log in as Mark, and we can see this menu. Go to client 800, Mark. Then this is the menu which is coming from this role. Yeah. So we can assign the transaction code, everything in the menu. That will in turn get assigned to your role. Then that role, when you assign, the user will get all the authorization and the menu which is assigned to this role. With this we came to the end of the session. I will see you in the next session. Bye bye.